should
Against I am pro-life, yes.
What does ban mean?
I am against I am pro-life, yes.
What is ban? How do you ban abortion?
So I made the statement. The New York Times did a major story. How dare Donald Trump criticize a place like he did Brussels? And it was like, I was excoriated. Then 2 months later, which was a week ago, they had the horrible problem in Brussels. And now Brussels, they realize they have no control over the place whatsoever. And we can't be the stupid people. We can't be. We just can't be. We can't be. And we're not going to be. Speaking of that, anything. And folks, he's in favor of Trans-Pacific Partnership, which is a disaster. And worse than being in favor, and he really pushed it, but worse than being in favor, the single greatest weapon used against you and everybody, used against our country, is currency devaluation and currency manipulation. That's the big weapon. And when I started talking about it a year and a half ago when it was conceived, I said, you got to talk about currency manipulation, because if you look at China, what they do is they devalue their currency and they kill us. You look at other countries like Japan and others, they devalue their currency and they absolutely kill us. So you have to go out and you have to look at currency manipulation. And if you're not going to put that in, well, Cruz would not hear of currency manipulation. Now, somebody told him you can't do it. One of his people that give him a lot of money. They said, you can't do it. Why would he not allow currency manipulation? In other words, having clauses that you can't do that. In other words, it's a violation, right? Or it's a default. It's no good. So Cruz, not only is he pushing it, which is terrible, but he won't allow the single biggest thing, a block, on the single biggest problem that we have, which is currency devaluations and currency manipulation. Now, you tell me that's going to be good for you? He's going to be a disaster, okay? I don't care. Somebody said, oh, you shouldn't say such bad things about he's a Republican. Give me a break, okay? I'm here. Hey, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, great. I'm going to either do a great job or I'll be waving hello. I'll be coming to Wisconsin to see my friends. I don't care. But look, they asked me, they said, why are you doing it? So many people, even my family, they say, Dad, why do you want to do this? I want to do it because this country has given me so much, and I hate watching what I'm watching on television. I hate seeing President Obama. True. I hate seeing President Obama today saying that Iran has violated our agreement. What did he think? He's now complaining about Iran violating the agreement. What the hell did he think? He's like a baby. He's like a baby. No, can you imagine? What the agreement's 2 seconds old. The ink isn't even dry. But they did it weeks ago. They were buying missiles from Russia. They were testing missiles. They don't care about him. And now they take the $150 billion. They don't spend it in Boeing. They buy 118 Airbuses. They don't want to buy Boeing. Then somebody on top of that says, well, they have a restriction. They're not allowed to buy in this country. Who the hell put that restriction on after we give them $150 billion? We give them $150 billion, I want to take the restriction off, right? Fast. Because I want the money. These people are just terrible. It's like amateur hour. So then today I hear Obama is very unhappy with Iran because he feels that they haven't lived up to the spirit of the agreement. What the hell did he think was going to happen? They defaulted on day one. I mean, they were doing things on day one, and everyone was telling him, he said, that can't be possible. That's the way life works. These are vicious people. These are great negotiators. You know, the Persians are great negotiators. When John Kerry went in, I'll tell you, I saw on Charlie Rose, I was watching Charlie Rose was talking to this guy, the head negotiator for Iran. And after watching for 5 minutes, I said, no, Kerry can't handle this guy. The guy's too smart, too shrewd, too slick, too cunning, too smart. But I have guys that are much smarter than him, including me, by the way, but that's okay. No. I have guys that are much better than him. But the saddest part of that deal is so much of this money is already gone. Just gone. $150 billion right out the tubes. And what do we get? We got nothing. We got nothing. They got the money, and the prisoners should have been released years ago before we started negotiating. Years ago. We got nothing. And, you know, I used to say that was a great deal, but it's not a great deal. The great deal is they got Iraq for nothing, because they've been fighting forever to get Iraq. And now they have, you know, Iraq has among the greatest oil reserves in the world, which a lot of people don't even know. Great quality oil, too. But among the greatest oil reserves in the world. Iran has that. We gave it to them. For years, decades and decades, they fight. And they had the same army, the same strength. Basically, they're almost identical. And they go 10 feet left, 10 feet right, 10 feet left. Thousands killed. Horrible. Saddam Hussein, gas, right? Remember the gas? People would be killed. And they'd complain. Then they'd throw gas at him, bomb. Then they'd rest. Then they'd start fighting a couple of years later. But they were the same. Nobody would move. It would be like this. It was called checks. Check and balance. Takes years, takes centuries to create that, right? We go in and destroy one side. And I said, I was against it. You know, everyone says Donald Trump will be too quick with the trigger. I'm the one that didn't want to do it. I want to build our military so strong, so powerful, that we never have to use it, I hope. Nobody's going to mess with us. It's so sad. It is so sad to see. I'm telling you, it's amateur hour. So then today I find out, and Hillary Clinton's a disaster, by the way. She is so incompetent. She is so incompetent. You look at what's happening. Take a look at Libya. You know who has Libya oil now? Tell me who has Libya oil. ISIS. ISIS has Libya oil. That was Hillary Clinton. Let's knock the hell out of this guy. So you have Gaddafi. Let's knock Gaddafi out. Now, Gaddafi and Saddam Hussein had one thing in common. They loved to kill terrorists. They were so good at it. They were as good as you could get at killing terrorists. Now the terrorists go to Iraq where they want to, it's like Harvard. If you want to be a terrorist, you go to Iraq. That's Harvard. Harvard University. You go to Iraq and you become a terrorist. You go to Libya. You go to these countries that we've destroyed. So look. Hillary did this whole thing. Remember the sign? Remember the ambassador and the Humvee riding into town with the flag and waving the flag? And then the people killed him a little while later, right? They killed him and other people, 4 people, and they killed the ambassador viciously. Nobody wants to say how the ambassador was killed. Viciously. And he's on their side. And that was Benghazi, okay? And remember Hillary with the phony phone call? When you get a call at 3 in the morning, don't you want her? No, I don't think so. She was sleeping. She only answers her friends at 3 in the morning, you know. So it's there. I mean, the whole thing is so crazy. But I will do a great job. Now, so what happens is I'm on this big show about a week and a half ago, and I get asked about NATO. And the announcer, very good man, Wolf Blitzer, very good man. And he said, Mr. Trump, what do you think about NATO? Now, just so you understand, I'm not a big NATO expert. I've been building buildings and doing deals all my life. You know, that's what I made over $10 billion doing this stuff. And I built a great company. You know, and by the way, China, they're great. Mexico, great. All of these countries are great. I'm not angry at them. I'm angry that our leaders are so stupid that these countries can take advantage of us. I'm not angry at those countries. Is this? I'm being interviewed by Wolf Blitzer, and he asked me about NATO. Now, I know about NATO. I'm not an expert on NATO, but I have a lot of common sense, and I have great business instincts. That's what you need when you have 19 trillion. You need somebody that we have to stop this, right? So, and I say, where did this come from? Nobody ever asked me about NATO, and nobody ever asked me a lot of these questions, because now I'm all of a sudden a politician. You asked me about NATO. I said two things. I said, number one, it's obsolete. It was, really developed for the Soviet Union, which doesn't even exist now, but Russia's plenty of problems. I mean, Russia's big stuff, and, it's good. But today we have a different problem. We have a problem with terrorism, right? We have a big problem with terrorism. Well, we have 28 countries. They're the wrong countries in terms of terrorism. Many of them are the wrong countries. And I said, we have to rejigger NATO. We've got to make it modernized. It's old, bureaucratic, and we spend most of the money. We spend money on all these countries, and they're not reimbursing us anywhere fairly, and they're way in default, and we keep spending and spending. And one of the things I do is I'd say to people, and I said to him, and I got terrible press, and then 2-3 days later, some of the experts said, we've been studying NATO for 25 years. We never thought of the things that Trump has said. Like, it's obsolete. It's funny. When you study something so closely, a lot of times you don't see the forest for the trees. You've heard that, right? So with NATO, what happened is I said obsolete, and we spend too much money on NATO because we're really defending other things. Like, as an example, the Ukraine. I love the Ukraine. I have many people that are friends of mine that live in the Ukraine, just like I have many people that are great, great friends of mine that live in Wisconsin. So with NATO, I said, look, it's obsolete, it's old, we have to focus on terrorism, and we're spending money, and people aren't paying. We have 28 countries, and a lot of those countries aren't paying. They're supposed to pay 2% of certain figures, and the numbers are just absolutely, they're not being met. They're not even paying, okay? So we're giving many of these countries, I don't want to say who, which I know, and I don't want to say how many, but it's a vast majority of these countries, we're giving them practically a free ride. Why are we always the dummies? Why are we policing the entire world? And when the Ukraine problem came up, we were complaining, Obama, we got to get out of, we're going to start World War III over the Ukraine, right? Okay. But we're the ones complaining. I say, why aren't the nations surrounding Ukraine? They're not complaining with Russia. They're not complaining. Why aren't they complaining? Why aren't they saying, we don't want you to do this? Why isn't Germany complaining? Why aren't the other countries complaining? Why are we always the one that's up front? And we're paying like 73%. We're one country out of 28. Why are we paying 73%? Why? Because it just got that way. So one of these experts was good. He said, I've been doing this for a long time, and I've been studying. I never thought of it. It's obsolete. Trump is right. And you know what else? It's unfair, because the United States is paying disproportionately by a lot, disproportionately too much. We owe 19 trillion, going to 21 trillion. I'm going to get that down so fast. There's so many different things. That's just one. And we talked about Japan. And he said, well, what do you think about Japan? I said, look, here's the story. We defend Japan. Does anyone know that? We defend Japan. They do now, because I've been talking about it to everybody, because I find it amazing. And it's fine. And I know we don't want Japan to arm, ideally. But in the meantime, we have this maniac in North Korea that's armed. So you say, well, where does it all stop? So we defend Japan. We defend Germany, right? You know that? We defend Germany. Now, here's the thing. They pay us, but it's a fraction of what we should be paid. And it's not a winner, okay? But we defend all these countries. We defend South Korea. We have 28,000 soldiers. I wouldn't want to be one of those soldiers, to be honest, with this maniac with nuclear weapons. We're sitting there like not good. But we have 28,000 soldiers on the border. We get peanuts. Now, what's going on? Saudi Arabia wouldn't exist except that we defend them. Saudi Arabia, until the oil price went down, and now they're still making a fortune, but they were making $1 billion a day a year ago. $1 billion a day. We defend Saudi Arabia. We have bases. We have to pay the rent. Why are we paying rent? The rent isn't the big thing, but the concept of why are we paying rent? We're defending them. Why are we paying rent? Okay? If we left Saudi Arabia, they would fall. Okay? They would fall. Whether internally or externally, probably Iran, because Iran took over Yemen. And Yemen has one thing that looks very, very enticing. It's a massive, long border. I mean, one of the longest borders you'll ever see with Saudi Arabia. And Iran wants to get the oil. Look, now they're taking over Iraq. They're taking over Yemen. They don't really want Yemen, but they like the border because they want to take over the oil in Saudi Arabia. And so I'm really good at this stuff. It's sort of amazing. These guys don't give you credit because they'll give you like a quarter of a sentence. So here's what they did. So the question was asked about Japan. They said, look, you always have to be prepared to walk. If you can't say you're going to walk, you can't make a good deal. Okay? It's called the art of the deal, right? John Kerry should have walked at least 2 to 3 times with Iran. When John Kerry went to Iran, he should have said, you have to release our prisoners before we start talking. And they would have said no, and then he should have walked, doubled up the sanctions, and within 24 hours he would have gotten a phone call, come on back, we're releasing your prisoners, and that would have been 4 years ago, okay? That's what would have happened. But this guy never walked. He never walked. They abused him mentally. They abused him like he was a child. They took advantage of him like he was a baby. They made an unbelievable deal for themselves. We got nothing. And on top of it, we now have a president that says it's not good what they're doing. And it just happened today. It's so embarrassing. How we have this man as a president is so embarrassing. He is now, after just a short while, in the meantime, they've taken much of the money, the $150 billion. They've taken the money. They've spent a lot of the money in Italy, all over Europe, in Russia. You know what they're doing with Russia? They're buying missiles. And we have Obama. Today, for the first time, he said he's not happy. He's not happy with Iran. He didn't say it as strongly as he should, but the real truth is they're in default. They are in total default. Problem is the money is gone. In other words, I wish, the 150. Now, I've said a number of times what I would have done with that, right? The 150. First, I would have gotten our prisoners back. I would have said, listen, before we start negotiating, fellas, you got to do this. The prisoners have to come back. They'll say no. I'll say, bye-bye. You get up, you leave. Then you double up the sanctions. They'll call you. They'll say, you have your prisoners tomorrow. Thank you very much. Okay, now you go back in. Now you do one other thing. You only want to walk a couple of times. You don't want to keep walking. Too much work, right? Now you say one more thing. Listen. The $150 billion, we have no money. We owe $19 trillion, soon to be $21 trillion. We have no money. We can't pay it. They'll go crazy. After a week or so, they'll be okay with it. We saved the 150. Okay? Now that's what we have to do. That's what we have to do. On top of it, the deal is no good. How would you like to make a deal when during the deal, they're over in Iran, celebrating in the streets, burning the American flag, and screaming about how stupid we are that this deal is so good. And we just keep going. But the greatest was today. And I hate to say it. I mean, I wish Obama didn't even say it. It must have been hard for him to say it. The man is incompetent, okay? He's incompetent. And it's sad to see. I mean, here's a deal that's a few weeks old, literally, and he's out there now saying he's upset with them. And anybody in their right mind would have known what he was getting into. He has no idea. He has no idea what's happening. And then today they talked to him about Trump, about nuclear weapons. He said, well, obviously he doesn't know about nuclear weapons. I know more about nuclear weapons than he'll ever know. I know what's right and wrong. So here's what happens. So I said, Japan. They said, now you have a maniac with nuclear weapons. He doesn't have a carrier system, but he's got nuclear weapons, right? And that's North Korea. And you have South Korea that's really, we're defending them. We're not getting what we should get. We're losing a fortune, but we're defending them. We're defending Japan. We're defending all these countries. So with Japan, I'd say, look, fellas, you got to pay up. We love you. You're our friends. We want to take care of you. That would be my first. And we might even walk once or twice, but that would be my first. And we'd also be prepared, maybe it's better to let them defend themselves, because we cannot afford to defend all these people. The world, the whole world, the whole world. So ideally they'll pay up, and they'll pay us a lot, and we'll defend them and all that stuff, because it's good. Because, nuclear is a big problem. I don't want to see nuclear all over the place, but already, if you think about it, North Korea, Pakistan, Russia, the United States, other places we don't even know about. ISIS probably wants it. We got to knock the hell out of them fast, by the way. We have no choice. We have no choice. ISIS, I didn't want to go into Iraq, but now with ISIS, you have no choice. Cutting off the heads and drowning people. This is a group of people that we have to beat them fast. Can you imagine we have a military? Can you imagine, I always say, because I was a big fan of General Douglas MacArthur. I was a big fan of General George Patton. These were tough cookies. These were smart, tough guys. These were Vince Lombardis of that world, okay? And these were tough. Could you imagine telling General Patton about ISIS that we can't beat ISIS? He'd have them knocked out in a week. I mean, literally. It would be over in a week. This is crazy. What's going on is crazy. And let me tell you, they get a nuke or they get a weapon of destruction. I don't even want to say what I'm saying here. They get a weapon of mass destruction. They wouldn't even think about it. They wouldn't even think about it. We got to knock them off fast. We can't play games. We can't play games. Because the single biggest problem we have is nuclear. The single biggest problem this world has, frankly, is nuclear. This is no more little, we're going to shoot. We have an army, 2 different uniforms. They have their M1 rifles and they're shooting each other. We're not in that anymore. We're into weapons of such unbelievable power. You look at Hiroshima and times 1,000, okay, times 1,000. So we can't play games anymore. If it weren't for that, I would have said, get the hell out of there. What difference does it make? Let them go shoot each other. Because, frankly, what's going on over there is disgraceful, but we can't allow this to happen. And, I don't know if you know this story, but they cut the Christians' heads off, and they cut others. But if you're Christian, boom, your head comes off. And if you are a Christian from Syria, this is during the old days, 5 years ago. If you were a Christian from Syria, you couldn't get into this country. It was almost impossible. If you were a Muslim from Syria, no problem. It was one of the easiest places to come into the United States. If you were Muslim from Syria, but if you were Christian from Syria, and they're the ones that needed the protection, much more so, you couldn't get into this country. So you think maybe something's going on that's not so good? All right? It's not so good? So I talked about Japan. And I talked about many aspects of it. I talked about the business aspect. I talked about the fact that we're tired of subsidizing all these countries all over the world. I talked about the fact that Saudi Arabia just cannot do this to us anymore. Don't forget, if we left Saudi Arabia, it would be a terrible thing would happen to them. It'd be very fast. Nobody's going to attack them now because we're protecting them. Now, here's what will happen. And they're great negotiators, too. If we left, we'd say, you got to pay, which is a fortune, by the way. You got to pay. It doesn't matter. They have so much money. They have funds that are so big, they don't know what to do with all their money. I know. Their funds are the biggest funds among the biggest funds in the world. They have so much money. Money is the thing they don't worry about. Money and oil. What they worry about is how long will they keep it, okay? So what you do is you negotiate. You're going to leave. You're going to leave. You have to be prepared to leave. Otherwise, you can't make a good deal. See, we're not prepared to leave. We weren't prepared to leave the negotiations with Iran. If Kerry would have gotten up and said, we're leaving, and been tough, we would have made a much better deal. Much better deal. I mean, we made one of the worst deals ever. Basically, they got $150 billion, and that's it. And they'll have nuclear weapons and everything else. And, it's so bad. So we have to be prepared to leave. We have to be prepared to leave Japan. We have to say, I'm sorry, we can't do that deal. And it's possible we won't get back. And it's possible they will arm, and they will then, have to take this guy, and they'll have to deal with him. We don't have to deal with him, okay? Is that so bad? Now, ideally, that doesn't happen. Ideally, they're going to pay, and they're going to pay a lot. And we'll be good, because I don't love them arming. But, there's a point at which we just can't do it. When our infrastructure's dying, when our country's dying, when our airports are like hell. I go to Qatar. I go to Dubai. You go to China, different places. You go to places. They have airports the likes of which you've never, ever, ever, ever seen. Then I land at LaGuardia. There are potholes all over the place. Places like a third world airport. Or Kennedy. Or LAX. Or Newark. You look at these airports. They're like from a different time. It's like a time warp. They're third world. But you go to some of these, my pilot lands at Dubai. He said, oh, Mr. Trump, that was the most incredible thing I've ever seen. The runway's twice as long as anything he's ever, it's like a piece of glass. And we land at LaGuardia. What's wrong? Are we okay? We're stupid. We have stupid people leading our country. So what I said, I talked about the economics of it. I talked about this. I also said I'd rather not see Japan armed, but if they have to, that's okay. You always have to be prepared for that. And there's a possibility they would be able to arm because we may leave, because we just can't afford to be the policemen of the world and lose all of this tremendous amount of money. And it's possible that we're going to have to let NATO go because, nobody's paying up. I mean, when we're paying and nobody else is really paying, a couple of countries are, but nobody else is really paying, you feel like the jerk. One of the things I do early on, I'd call up all of those countries. I'd either get myself, Carl Icahn, or somebody else that's very good at this stuff, okay? I'd call them up and say, fellas, you haven't paid for years. Give us the money or get the hell out. Get out. You haven't paid for years. They have agreements. It's all agreements. And they haven't paid for years. I'd say, you got to pay us or get out. You're out. And I'll be nice to them. I'll be a little softer than that. I'll say, I'm sorry, but you're no longer NATO. And maybe NATO will dissolve. And that's okay. Not the worst thing in the world. But I'm telling you, NATO experts are saying, this guy Trump has got something. They study it. They're so close to the situation that they never thought that it's obsolete. They're so close that they never realized that all these people don't pay. And that we're like the big, stupid sucker that's paying for NATO. And we're paying for the United Nations. We're paying for the United Nations. Many countries don't pay for the United Nations. They come in, they don't pay their bills, the same thing. Because they think we're stupid. I'm not going to let our companies leave. And I tell the story. Carrier I tell all the time. I love the Carrier story because it's so obvious. 2 months ago, they announced they're leaving the United States. They're moving to Mexico. I said, oh, that's all right. Moving to Mexico. Just like that. 1,400 people gone. Great jobs. They did a great job for 30 years. They did a great job making air conditioners, these people. Now they're wiped out. So the conservative dopes, the guys from the National Review and these dopey people, they think, oh, we're conservative. Well, I'm more conservative than them on virtually every subject. But on trade, I'm a free trader. But you can only be a free trader if your leaders are smart. If your leaders are stupid, you can't be a free trader because they're going to, do numbers on us. So Carrier's leaving. So Carrier said they're moving to Mexico. Oh, that's great. So I tell the story all the time. I call up Carrier. I say, listen, here's the story. Meaning I or one of my people that I have all the best people, right? I call up. Say, Mr. President. And my wife wouldn't let me call Carrier because she'd say it's not presidential. I'm not supposed to be calling as president an air conditioning company. But I'll do it anyway. It's so easy. It's just 5 minutes, darling. I love doing it. I love it. And I say to him, listen, good luck with your plant. I hope you do really well. I hope you sell lots of air conditioners. But now we have a real border. We have a real border. And every air conditioner that comes into the United States, you're going to pay a 35% tax on that air conditioner. Okay? And because I'm not Ted Cruz, who's controlled by his lobbyists and his special interests, and they'll find the lobbyist that says Cruz. It's blazoned into his forehead, the lobbyist. It'll say Cruz. In other words, he takes care of Cruz. Another one takes care of Hillary. Another one takes care of Kasich. Another one takes, that's what it is, folks. These are people. They're really smart, really good. They raise millions of dollars for these guys. Look at their PACs. They have all this money. Their PACs. I put up my own money. It's so stupid. I don't think I get any credit for it. Really. I feel so stupid. My whole life, I've taken, I keep taking. And now I'm telling people they want to give you $10 million. One guy, Donald, I want to give you $10 million. I say, this is so foreign to me. It's like, I say, I can't take it. He goes, what? He said, of course you can take it. I said, I can't. Another guy wants to give me $5 million. I'm turning down all of this money. And my whole life has been the opposite. I take. And I say it. I keep taking. But now I'm going to take for you. I'm going to take for the United States. I'm going to take. But these lobbyists have total control over these people. And they'll go to Cruz and they'll say, no, you have to do this, you have to do that. So if Cruz is president, number one, he wouldn't make the call because it's up from even making the call, because it would never happen. With me, I'll have people call. I'll say, hey, you know what? You didn't give me anything. I'm not doing anything. I just want to do what's right. The only people I'm working for are you. Believe me. I don't need money. I don't want your money. I want you to vote on Tuesday. That's all I want you to do. The only thing. I've told the story, and this is true for Ford, and it's true for Nabisco. I'm just using Carrier as the example, but it's true for all these companies. So look, here's what happens. So I'll say, call me back. He'll call me back. I will have been approached by lobbyists, by special interest groups. I will have been approached by everybody. I'll say, call me back. He'll call me back within 24 hours. He'll say, Mr. President, we're staying in the United States. That's what's going to happen. 100%. 100%. 100%. Now, I guarantee you that nobody from the United States ever called Carrier Corporation. Nobody from the United States ever put pressure on Ford that we can't do this. You can't build a $2.5 billion plant in Mexico. We got to keep you in the United States. Nobody ever told Nabisco that you can't move your factory from Chicago into Mexico. Nobody ever said that. Nobody told Pfizer you can't move to Ireland. You know, Pfizer, great pharmaceutical company, 6,000 jobs, the best jobs. They're leaving the United States. They're going to move to Ireland, which is great. I have a lot of property over in Ireland, but, you know, what are you going to do? But they're moving to Ireland. Did anybody talk to them, negotiate with them? Nobody talks. They leave. Thousands of jobs gone. Me, I'm going to talk to them. Me, when they send their product in, believe me, their product doesn't get freebies anymore. There's no more freebies. And all these politicians, because they're all taken care of. They're all taken care of through campaign contributions, all of them. And probably other ways, but I don't want to talk about that. But they're all taken care of, right? And they don't do anything to keep these people because they're told you can't. Pfizer has some of the greatest lobbyists in the world, so they get left alone. But let me tell you, when they send their products in, if they had to pay a fee, a tax, you know, China would call it a tax. China would call it a tariff because it sounds like a little better. Do you know, I have a friend, he's a great manufacturer, great manufacturer. He calls me all the time. He says, I can't do business in China. You can't get your product in there. They don't want it. They don't want anything made in this country. You know, we talk about free trade. That's why I talk about these stupid people. They say they're conservatives. We're going to make great trade deals. We're going to make so much money. We're going to bring our jobs back from China. We're going to bring our jobs back from Mexico. We're not going to lose our manufacturing anymore. These numbers that you have right here. Look at this chart. I mean, this chart is incredible. Look, U.S. manufacturing jobs since 2000. You see what that says? You see the line? You don't have to see what it says. See the line? Slightly. If we keep going, we're going to have nothing. I'm telling you, there'll be nothing left. Look at that. Can you see that? I didn't exactly do this for a big audience. This is an official chart, United States government. Look at this. We started here, and now we're here. Bottom line, another couple of years, what the hell, we'll have nothing left, right? We'll have to start all over again. So it's not going to happen, folks. We're going to bring our jobs back. You're going to be so proud of this country. We're going to build up our military. We're going to knock out ISIS. We're going to take care of our vets. We're going to have a strong border. We're going to have a great wall that Mexico is going to pay for. We're going to get rid of Common Core, and we're going to have local education. We're going to repeal and replace that horrible, horrible Obamacare. And I'll tell you, here's a story. So it's sort of like, you know, why do you do it? I didn't need this. I didn't need that, although I enjoy it. Because we have a movement going. You look at Time Magazine. There's a movement. This isn't like a normal thing. This has probably never happened before. Millions and millions of votes. Now, the Republican Party, they view me as, you know, a guy. They don't want me because I don't want money. I don't want their money. I don't want the lobbyist money. I don't want all these people. They're going to be saying, like, you know, we can't get to Trump because it's a crooked system. We can't get to Trump. So I got all these people against me. That's why it's important that I win. But I win Louisiana. I'm speaking in front of thousands of people for a week. I win, and I get fewer delegates than he's got. Okay, it's not fair, folks. It's not fair. Because I'm the outsider. And what they do is they want to knock out the outsider because they want to keep their little party going. And the reason our country owes 21 trillion, not billion, trillion dollars, okay? The reason we owe all of this money is because of this system. So here's what we got to do. We're going to win so much. What you have to do is go out and vote. Get every person you know. You can cross lines. If you're Democrat, if you're independent, if you know, the people that are voting for me a lot, people that never voted before. We have a huge, and you're going to be so proud of your country again. We're not going to have a president said, oh, gee, I shouldn't have done the deal with Iran because it's not working out 2 weeks after. I mean, the ink isn't even dry. I told him it wasn't going to work out. That's what I do. I'm so good at this stuff. I'm so good. Remember I said keep the oil, right? Keep the oil. We're there. Don't leave. Keep the oil. Surround it. Keep it. We didn't keep it. ISIS now has Libya's oil. Why aren't we doing a blockade? Why aren't we doing a blockade? ISIS has the Libyan oil. Hillary Clinton. Let's free Libya. Benghazi. The ambassador killed her friend. Okay? Keep the oil. Why aren't we doing blockades? So many things. So here's the story. You're going to be so proud of your country. You're going to be so proud of your country. You're going to love your country so much. You love it anyway, but you're so disappointed in it right now. And you're so disappointed in the leaders. You're going to view tonight as very important. You're going to view Tuesday as very, very important. And here's what's going to happen. We're going to start winning again. We're going to win on trade. We're going to win with our military. We're going to knock the hell out of ISIS. We're going to win for our vets. We got to take care of our vets. We're going to win at the border. People come in, but they got to come in legally, right? Legally. They come in through a legal system. And we're going to win in every aspect. And you're going to say, that was a great day when I voted for Donald Trump.